Okay.
on this computer.
Hey, we're recording. Everybody, welcome to the final day of our Metallica draft. We started off with the starting five. We then moved to the backups. And now, for this final day of draft picks, we are going to focus on the specialists and the role players. And this is one of the most fun to go over because we are going to get into some deep cuts and really show how much we love Metallica with these picks. Evan, are you ready to make like a rock and roll with these?
I'm ready, but before we get into the drafts, I want to just take a minute for a little show and tell. And as promised, I have my extra large Metallica hockey jersey here to show off. Now this is, it's sort of a symbol of my passion for Metallica at the time. This was a birthday gift from my daddy in 1997. So it was my 12th birthday. So right around a little before the time Mike and I became good friends. And the reason I know that is because for my birthday party, I was spoiled. I had indulgent parents, and my dad took me and a couple friends to the Metallica concert. They were on the Reload tour, and bought me this jersey. And he let me bring a couple of friends. And my dad at the time, in classic dad fashion, if he were doing this draft, the first Metallica song he would take would be "Fuel" off of Reload. He loved that song. I feel like it's an anthem for dads. And I remember at the time, one of my friends, who's no longer a friend, partly because of this incident, had diarrhea at the concert. And my dad had to escort him and his shitty diarrhea ass to the Marcus Amphitheater restrooms, and he missed his favorite song. He missed "Fuel." So giving him a shout out. Thanks, Dad, for the jersey. I don't wear it anymore. It's special. It's too special. And I just bring it out. Well, really, it's just for this, just to bring out and show off. So that's my show and tell.
I want to
Mike?
go back to that experience. Is missing your favorite song at a concert is devastating.
Mike, you're too quiet. I want you to know. I want you to speak up. I want you to get close to the mic.
Yeah. All right. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
It's awfully quiet. It's awfully quiet.
What the hell? How about now?
No better.
Hold on.
It was fine.
How's the recording quality now?
It's the same.
Okay.
You did something.
Can you pause
Yeah,
this?
I'll pause it.
Okay, we're back recording. We've resolved the technical difficulties here. Nothing but the best audio quality and visual quality here. Nothing but the best will suffice. And I'm trying to get the lighting in here, and I just can't quite get it to my liking. But we'll deal with it. All right. So Evan, let's go through the songs that we've selected here, and we'll just do a quick recap. So here are the songs that I have on my team. I have Master of Puppets, One, Jump in the Fire, Welcome Home Sanitarium, Seek and Destroy, Trapped Under Ice, Orion, Eye of the Beholder, Fade to Black, and Metal Militia. Evan, we have Whiplash, Ride the Lightning, Battery, Four Horsemen, Damage Incorporated, Creeping Death, and Justice for All, Disposable Heroes, Blackened, and Fight Fire with Fire. Evan, how do you feel about your team?
I feel pretty good. Yeah, I feel like if I had to do it over again, I'd probably pick the same songs given the choices that you made. And so I'm not complaining. I might maybe put Disposable Heroes above Injustice for All. I guess it doesn't really matter. I'm excited about my role players though, which you said is kind of this bottom five. They're not necessarily the bottom. They're specific songs for specific purposes, And these are your go-tos. Certain occasions, they have little nuances to them, and I'm excited to whip them out. You
Yeah.
know, you had raised the question of whether anything from a record other than the first four was going to make it up on this draft. You know, we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Have to see.
And the one important thing to remember about this one is that tracks from Garage Incorporated are permitted for this draft. So those for the iconic cover album of Metallica, those songs are permitted.
Yeah, but not from Garage, not from the EPs. There was a Garage Days revisited, Garage Days revisited, Garage Days revisited that have some covers as well. We're not including that, correct? I
don't recall getting to that level of specificity, but we're talking about the '98 Garage Incorporated with
right
with So What and Tuesday Gone, Whiskey in the Jar.
Fair game, baby.
Yeah.
Just like Hardwired to Extinction or whatever. The last two records, which I've actually never heard. I've actually never listened to the last. I don't even know how many they have. I mean, I saw them on the Saint Anger tour, but I don't think I've ever actually listened to that record. I just can't.
I put it on from time to time, and it sounds like somebody is doing like a Linkin Park Nickelback fusion, and they're doing it poorly.
That's cold.
Yeah, so
cold. I have some very cold and dirty thoughts about Metallica that I don't think I've brought up yet. I mean, I'm emotionally invested, so I have opinions. Damn it! But
well, let's get started. So I get to pick first because I won the coin toss.
Mike won the coin.
And what song am I going to pick to start things off? I believe that with my next pick, I am going to go to a track that I was, as a matter of fact, listening to earlier today, and that is, again, going back to the Kill 'Em All well. I'm going to go with Phantom Lord.
All right.
And there is part of Phantom Lord which I do really enjoy, which I find fascinating, where when the song slows down before it kicks into the guitar solo, I feel like we get a glimpse into the future, because when it slows down, the guitar part sounds a lot like something you would hear off the Black album, and then it transitions to something that like you would hear on Master of Puppets. So like the future of Metallica is very much embedded into that song, which then of course uses as a segue to a characteristically exciting guitar solo. But that is my pick to start off this area of role players and specialists.
Yeah, I think a very quality observation you just made. It's a good track. It's the only track on that record with any non-distorted guitar tone, and it's one of, I guess, two songs on the record that have a sort of a more ballad-like interlude. The other would be the Four Horsemen. I would say that about as well. That's a song that's like part thrash and part kind of what you're saying, like preface to a more nuanced, orchestrated style of song. Although the Phantom Lord has that kind of acoustic interlude that you're talking about. It's good shit. It's good shit. It's my turn.
It's your turn, man.
You happen not to pick anything that's on my bottom five list, so I am going to go on a personal note here and pick for my number 11, Call of Cthulhu with a K. And I don't think this is one of the better Metallica songs, all things considered, but it's a personal favorite. I remember being, a teenager, preteen, listening to this on my bed and just kind of getting lost in the music. and being really excited about the fact that it was an instrumental, like a long instrumental, with lots of different, like the mixture of that kind of, for lack of a better term, classically influenced style of melody with this heavy, thrashy metal sound, I thought was just amazing. And it was a big wake up kind of song for me. It was one of those ones I puzzled over as a guitarist, learning how to play each part. I was very proud when I learned how to play it and all that kind of stuff. So I got called Cthulhu, the instrumental track, last track off of Ride the Lightning, for my number 11 pick. And it's funny, they misspelled Cthulhu. You know, it's influenced by the H.P. Lovecraft Cthulhu, whatever. And they spelled it with a K here.
Well, that's out of these tracks. So, I mean, both of us have selected a very meaty instrumental track.
Yeah, well, you took the best one
from there. That's I think a good way to balance it out.
You scored on Orion, and you scored a few times here.
Yeah,
you swiped a couple from me.
Yeah, well, and as we're talking about this and reminiscing about the songs, is just to go back to the last day of drafts that we did with Orion. That was also a very distinct part of my music listening life, where my favorite genre of music was guitar-based instrumental rock. Yeah. So having a song like an 8-minute track with no lyrics I was all about that.
For sure.
Who needs lyrics?
Who needs them?
Yeah,
you like lyrics though. Mike is the kind of guy who memorizes all the lyrics to songs. He knows lyrics to songs that I've never even bothered to ask about. I don't know how you keep it all in your brain, but my guess would be
practice.
What's that?
So it takes practice. Like, you'd have to be committed to learning them.
Right. You practice every day.
Well, it does. Well, I mean, I think there is something to it with it goes along with the quality of that. I don't know how much, if Adam's going to be listening to these podcasts or not. I'm going to guess no. However, he, like myself, is a big fan of the group They Might Be Giants. And I bring that up because They Might Be Giants, they just have a knack for writing songs in a way that they stick with you. And that makes the lyrics, of course, easier to remember. So stuff like Ozzy, like his melodies are so good that it just makes it easy to remember the lyrics. All you have to do is, remember the melody and you can remember the lyrics.
It's just weird, yeah, because like for me, you take like Master of Puppets, the record. I mean, I know every note on that record on the guitar. Mm-hmm. I do not know every lyric. In fact, I don't think there's any songs on that record that I would know the entire, maybe Master of Puppets, but I am not one who pays attention to lyrics. So I've always appreciated that about you, that you know all the lyrics.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of reminds me a little bit of this conversation. It's like the little bit of that VH1 Def Leppard, where it's like, I know the lyrics, you know the guitar. That's how we work together. Oh, which I forgot to mention in the intro. This is a VH2 Presents production. Okay.
Yeah. We'll make that clear in the show notes and all that, as they say. Well, it's a little fun fact for anybody listening about Mike. Mike's favorite movie happens to be that VH1 mockumentary on Def Leppard. It's not a documentary, right? It's like a historical fiction type thing.
Right, it is. It has Anthony Michael Hall playing Mutt Lange, and it is. Now, apparently, though, there is there is a line in that movie which is historically accurate, where after Rick Allen lost his arm in the car accident, he said like, I'm a famous rock drummer and I just lost my arm. And that's apparently the actual thing that he said afterwards. Now, for the next track, and I'm going to digress real quick. We did mean to do a podcast, and we need to do this still, about the VH1 show, serial show, Strange Frequency, which had like 20 to 25 minute episodes, and the one where Roger Daltrey plays the devil.
And devil in all of them.
Well, I think Strange Frequency. I think that it was kind of like a Twilight Zone type show, but with rock and roll. And he was in that one, and there's some good parts about that. So anyway, that we'll have to do that one next. You can go to YouTube, watch it. Strange Frequency, the one with Roger Daltrey. Okay, for my next pick, I'm going to go back to And Justice for All, and I'm going to select The Frayed Ends of Sanity.
All right,
is the track. So that one is just just a great butt kicking intro. I don't know if that's a Wizard of Oz, right?
Yeah, that's the monkeys.
Yeah. That was just a good intro, which hooks you in right from the very beginning, and just a characteristically solid track off of that record. But that one again, the favorite part for me is that the intro with the Wizard of Oz.
You like that?
Back there.
Yeah, well, it's a deep cut for sure. It's not one I would have picked, and not one of my favorite tracks on that record, but I hear what you're saying. Like it is definitely a perfect example of a Metallica song that can scratch a particular itch that you might have, and it's different. It's different. It's a deep cut. It's different from the standard panel of tracks that you get, and kind of similar to Call of Cthulhu in that it's a departure from a lot of the rest of the content on that record. The other song on that record that's like that is To Live Is to Die, which is a really solid Metallica song. And maybe we'll see it on this list. We still got.
We'll find out.
Maybe we will find out. Okay. My number 12, my number 2 pick for the role players is Hit the Lights.
Ooh, that's
I
good.
was surprised that we've gone this long without it making it. And it's a track. There's a lot you could say about this song. It's the first track off of their first record, Kill 'Em All. It was their first demo. It's the song that kind of got the attention of record producers and things like that. It is incredibly bouncy and fun and punky, and I truly fell in love with this song when I started running, because there are the rhythm of the chorus in the song. It's perfect for running. It just cranks you up, and it's just the kind of thing you put on, you want to just move around. I don't know. I mean, I don't listen to a lot of dance music, but if I were going to dance or do some sort of interpretive movement to Metallica, I'd pick this song. Yeah, catchy, fun as hell.
Yeah, that's one that I had on my board. I don't know. I felt the need to stray away a little bit from Kill 'Em All, but I think that maybe I should not have, because that would have been one that eventually would have been selected by me.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Kill 'Em All is all tapped out at this point. Let's see.
It's not. We have a couple left. We still have No Remorse, and we also have Anesthesia, Pulling Teeth.
And we have Motor Breath.
Yeah. So there is some stuff. Is Anesthesia on your board?
Oh, I will never tell. I'm not telling you what's on my board, man. Yeah.
Because that's one that I'm thinking about whether or not I want to select it.
Go
ahead.
The clock is ticking, Mike.
Well, it sure is. I mean, a comparison that I would kind of make with Anesthesia is D off of Blizzard of Oz, of just a shorter instrumental track featuring instrumentation. So
take the most musically gifted member of the band and let them just have a whole track and do whatever they want. Yeah.
Yeah.
An important song.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I've talked myself into it. I'm going to take that one. That's what I'm going to take.
I think that's a solid choice.
Yeah. Because I mean that one, it's, I mean, what can you say? I mean, that is some concentrated Cliff Burton, which is also aided by Lars as well. So just,
did I get this spelling right, Mike? Is that all right?
well, let's see here. I'm gonna pull up my Spotify. Yeah, that looks right. And I'm not gonna look too close.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Close enough. Well, to be perfectly, I mean, it needs to say this, right?
Yeah.
Can't just half-ass it here. Let's get everything right. A real Metallica fan would have memorized the track lengths.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm gonna ask. So, at the start of, again, Anastasia Pulling Teeth, again, very concentrated Cliff Burton, awesome when the drums kick in too. So it works both as just a showcase of his talent and as a rock song too, which I appreciate.
It's brilliant.
I want to ask you though for some trivia, perhaps. I don't know the answer to this, and you might. At the very beginning of the song, you hear like bass solo part 1, or like bass solo take one. Is that, as a matter of fact, was this like the first and only take of that track?
Well, I am someone who has faith in Metallica and in Cliff Burton, and so as a young, passionate Metallica fan, I never thought to question it. I always just assumed, yeah. And I will go so far as to say that I think that this is the eruption of bass solos.
Mm-hmm.
Same era, and like incredibly inventive and elevating for rock bass players to hear somebody do that kind of thing with that kind of fuzz tone. It's a great track. I hemmed and hawed about putting it on my list as well. I ended up not having it because, to me, it stands out as something that's different from a song. It's just like something special that's in its own satellite realm. But I'm glad you picked it because we get to talk about it. So I don't know for certain if that is actually take one. I would not be surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm with you in there. And in terms of filling it out, this is a true specialist, a true role player. I don't think that you'll find a better example of that than this one. One here, because I think you put it well. It doesn't really, kind of defines categorization, and like in the same way that Eruption does for Van Halen, where it's not exactly a song, but it's still an important piece of music. Yeah,
for sure.
But again, is one of the most VH2 things I think I'll ever say.
This is a very VH. I mean, we are disciples of, early 2000s VH1.
Yeah. What I was thinking about too on the subject of that is there was the top 40 most awesomely bad metal songs, and I just remember Scott Ian from Anthrax being on there, and like for every song he was like, "This is a good song. I don't understand why this is on this list."
He didn't. Yeah, he never liked being on the VH1 interviews.
Mm-hmm.
It was bullshit. I mean, that's what was on. That was what was on TV to watch.
Mm-hmm.
VH1. Where are we at? Is it my turn?
It's your turn, all right.
13. Okay, well, we might as well keep this train going for 3 in a row. I'll kill them all. I am indeed going to pick No Remorse as my 13th. And I'm honestly, I would consider moving this a lot higher. I think this song has sort of an essence. It finds the true root of particularly James Hetfield's ability to write riffs. The just chugging downward stroke, the riffs. There's enough melody to make it different from punk, and enough speed to keep it in that thrash realm, but it's more melodic than your typical just garbage thrash. But there are so many good, every riff in this song is good. and the bridge riff is good. It comes at a point in the record where it's like, it's sort of, it gets undercut by like Seek and Destroy, which is the track right after it, right? I think it was Phantom Lord, No Remorse, Seek and Destroy. And so as a youngster first discovering Kill 'Em All, I mean, I was all about the big boys, Seek and Destroy, and Four Horsemen, and Jump in the Fire. But like really in the last 10 years or so, like this record and Metallica, I just fell in love with the songs Whiplash and this one, No Remorse. And it's, you know, lyrically, it's got like Seek and Destroy. This is kind of like, you know, young, youthful, rebellious, commando style lyric, violent, and I dig it. It's also, you know, it begins, a song that begins with a guitar solo, which is kind of cool. But yeah, big fan of No Remorse. Also, check out the Cannibal Corpse cover of this song if you get a chance. It's highly entertaining. Okay.
So I guess that would just leave from Kill 'Em All. That would just leave Motor Breath,
Which is a good song.
As the last track. I mean, you can't go wrong with any of them. I'm just looking real quick here to see if there's anything off of Master of Puppets that we're missing. I guess we are. There are a few tracks, which I think again we'll see how the rest of this plays out. But it is possible that we'll go we'll take all the Kill 'Em All tracks and leave some from Master of Puppets. Now, does that mean that Kill 'Em All is a better record?
I think Kill 'Em All is the best Metallica record, personally.
Mm-hmm.
I think Master of Puppets contains some of their most, you know, there are musical moments on Master of Puppets that I think are their pinnacle, like creatively and musically. But I think honestly, and maybe this is controversial, like Master of Puppets, I think the song Thing That Should Not Be is a dud, which is ironic with the title is. Like, yeah. I don't like that song. I'm not particularly fond of Leper Messiah. I don't think it's as consistently good a record. Whereas Kill 'Em All is just, it's pure dude, as Mike likes to say.
Yeah, it's exactly what I like to say.
You know.
Yeah, I think it's something where if you look at it, Master of Puppets. Well, no. What I was going to say, but I'm going to take it back. What I was going to say is that Master of Puppets has a higher ceiling, but Kill 'Em All has a higher floor. But I just don't think that's quite true because some of the peaks on Kill 'Em All. Like, I mean, Whiplash is as good of a song as good of a metal song that was ever written.
Yeah.
And just
and they're very different records too. I mean, like the production is very different. I just like, you know, it's tough to compare. I mean, like they're both going to be on my top 5, 10 metal records of all time. So will Ride the Lightning for that matter. I just think if they have their record that is like start to finish good, Kill 'Em All. I just think like I said, there's a purity to it. There's no bullshit. They weren't getting overly clever and creative. And that led to just, you know, 10 songs that were perfect. There isn't a dud on that record.
All right. Well, so we're getting to the last. We're running out of slots here. So I'm going to go for my next pick. This is more of a sentimental favorite. This is one of the first Metallica songs that I, you know, truly loved and got me into it. And also using it within the context of the rest of the songs that we've selected, the rest of the songs on my team. This is one in terms of complexity actually provides a little bit of a breather because it's just a more straightforward metal song. And you might know what I'm talking about. This is For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Nice.
is what this one again. This goes back to Cliff Burton a little bit. The bass intro has a menacing, frightening, visceral sound to it that like something bad's about to happen. And just the the main riffs of the song rock pretty hard, and it doesn't tax your brain in the same way that something like Master of Puppets does, where there's just like a lot of like there are different movements and there's a lot of stuff going on. It's just pretty. I would say it's their most the most AC/DC of their tracks, where they just have some good riffs in there, and it just rocks pretty hard for about 5 minutes, and it has that iconic Cliff Burton bass intro.
Yes, yes. A lot to say about this song. I love what you said, that it's the most AC/DC, because it's one of the shortest Metallica songs from that era, and it's one of the simplest musically, except maybe for some, that bass intro is somewhat more intricate. But it's funny. It's another song that like a lot of Metallica fans would probably put a lot higher, and justifiably so. I think it's important for them as a band, because it's an incredible live song. Like as an anthem for a live crowd, this is like a very important song, and probably did a lot to elevate their live following. I have a personal weird bias against it. I mean, I love the song. I don't listen to it a lot, and that's partly because it doesn't have much going on, like from a guitar standpoint. So I remember being an immature young person, like, there are not enough notes in this song. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm going to Creeping Death, where there's like this like lightning long ass guitar solo with a million notes. But yeah, I mean, you could even make the case that this is like the top track off Ride the Lightning in some ways, just depending on what criteria you use, right? Like if you want the iconic, recognizable, significant song, like this is a huge one for them.
Yeah, and I'll say for the in-person experience, I'll add just a sentimental part of it is, as you know, I am a big sports fan. Went to a lot of Wisconsin Badgers football games, and this was a song like when the Badgers were on defense and there was a big third down and they needed to get the crowd pumped up and going. This is a song that would regularly be played to get people going. Where of course you have the bells before the intro kicks in. So when you have 80,000 fans that are trying to encourage the defense to get a stop, and then this song comes in, there's just that certain energy to it, which again, I've never seen Metallica live, but I would imagine the same thing, where when that track comes on and you're at an arena or at a stadium, that it would be pretty incredible, pretty energetic.
Yep, yeah, definitely. So it's a winner. The bell tolls for whom the bell tolls.
That's what they said. So when Ernie was writing this song,
Ernie wrote the book that inspired him. It's funny. Like we could talk about, Lars and James, and I don't know. I don't have enough evidence to really support this, but there are moments in their early songwriting where they're clearly trying to make like sort of dilettante references to like literature. I mean, the Call of Cthulhu thing is funny that they misspelled it.
Yeah.
And from the bell tolls, like, we're deep thinkers, we're reading some Hemingway.
Yeah. We like to rock, but we also like literature.
And like lots of metal bands seem to do that. Maybe it's for them.
To be fair though, like when For Whom the Bell Tolls, they were like what, 22 years old.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah.
I mean, 21.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 21, 22. So they probably had to read it in high school, But yeah, that's great. So I'm glad, I like both of our picks so far. My number 14. So this is where it's getting a little tricky for me, and I get a lot of different directions I feel like I can go. Where I'm at now, I think I'm gonna go with Harvester of Sorrow
Mm-hmm.
off of Injustice for All. And similar to For Whom the Bell Tolls, like this is probably one of their best, like get the crowd going, bouncy, booming, rhythmic tracks for a huge crowd. It's just a super fun song. And again, like inventive, winding riffs and rhythmically a lot of just very, like I said, kind of bouncy and fun. And it's a good, it's like Harvester of Sorrow and For Whom the Bell Tolls, I think have made it on every like set list that for whatever shows I've been to. This one's a little bit less AC/DC than For Whom the Bell Tolls, a little longer, but it's certainly simpler and like more to the chase than, like And Justice for All, which is like my favorite song off of that record. So yeah, Harvester of Sorrow, offside B of Injustice for All,
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite live bangers, and Gets Me Cranked. So
Well, there's also Harvester of Sorrow. There's also Sower of Happiness.
yeah, there's Sower of Happiness, and there's what else we have. See, I'm not as quick on the draw. I can't.
Well, I've been holding on to that one for the last 35 years. Now that's the only one I could think of. But
there's the Three Cowgirls. All right.
Yeah, never cool. Okay.
We're just not even going to explain any of that.
Me too. Well, we have the last track. We have the last track here, last pick. I know what I'm going to select. You probably know what you're going to select. Do you? Before we get into this, Evan, so
unless you pick it.
People are going to look at this and they're going to say, "What? No Fuel, no Enter Sandman, no Whiskey in the Jar, no 2x4." People are going to look at this and they're going to see some of those glaring misses.
Yeah.
But what do you have anything to say? Any final thoughts about the post and Justice for All Metallica records?
Well, look,
or let me ask you this question. Well, go ahead. I'll let you finish there.
So first thing I'll say is the draft's not over. We still have a last pick. But in general, and I think this came up on the first round of this draft, you're really talking about two different. This is the difference between Metallica as a metal band and Metallica as a hard rock band. And you know what? What makes them so special and rare as a band is that they were incredibly successful at both. And that's how I view all this. But their departure between, and what the Black album was sort of the bridge, and the departure between like Injustice for All and Load, that chasm couldn't be bigger musically. I mean, like, and they were trying to be enormous and be like the Beatles and reinvent everything, and that's fine. But like, I didn't fall in love with that Metallica, and when I say I'm emotional about it, like this shit inspired me. Like I spent so much time listening to these songs and trying to play them on my guitar. And so I really just can't identify. Now, going to see Metallica live, and we've talked about this, like hearing them play Enter Sandman and Fuel and King Nothing, that's fun. It's fun. Those are well-crafted rock radio songs. Nothing wrong with that. But that's like almost a different draft. And I don't particularly care that much about those songs, except insofar as like I have like nostalgic memories of listening to them when they came out. Because to be perfectly honest, I think I might have mentioned this too. It's not like I just grabbed these records. I mean, I heard Enter Sandman on the radio like everybody else, was curious because it's a really heavy, cool rock song, and then found out they had this other material. But anyway, I've said too much. I don't think it's any real Metallica fans. Well, I shouldn't say that because like there's all kinds of Metallica fans who are all about the new shit, and I just
Yeah.
I don't know that.
This has probably come up on a previous podcast, but I'll say it again. There's a guy I was talking to a few years ago about music, and he was talking about how when you have bands like Metallica, bands like Van Halen, right? The comparison there being is that they have like they're in their late teens, early 20s, and they have that prime like 4 to 6 years of just like peak energy, peak creativity.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Van Halen from when first album came out in 1984. Look at Metallica, time between Kill 'Em All and Justice for All, and the idea being that you have that youthful reservoir, but then eventually that gets tapped out.
Right.
And that what he's interested in is well, then what comes after that and how does it evolve? So he's someone who's like, hey man, Saint Anger was a good record, because he's like interested in, like, he's like, I prefer like the Van Halen with Sammy Hagar to the David Lee Roth, which I think is an incorrect opinion. However, I mean, his point being, it's like you have these people and they evolve, and he's interested in their evolution and like what their songs sound like once that initial creativity goes by. And I think that's a really interesting take and a really really interesting perspective, because like you're saying, like Load and Beyond is a completely different band, and you're going to appreciate it in a different way. And there is a craft to writing a radio friendly, a song like Fuel. Like there's a craft and there's an expertise in being able to write a song like that, which just millions of people love. And like you said, it was your dad's favorite song. So
right.
I mean, which I can personally, I'm not a fan. I never go out of my way to listen to anything Load, Reload, or whatnot, but a lot of people do, and that's I think even if I don't personally really like it or care for it that much, I think it is something that shows how good James and Lars are writing songs. So they can just do that. They can decide to become a brand new band and be successful. So in a sense, it's not. I think there's a comparison there between like Bon Scott AC/DC and Brian Johnson AC/DC, where, well, that's not a good comparison, but you get the idea.
Yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. I appreciate that. I guess I'm a little less sympathetic toward the transition, and I'm not a full scale, sellout accuser of Metallica. It just seems like I often wonder if it's not a thing of like too many cooks in the kitchen, or them being overly taxed and therefore like bored. If you read a lot of their interviews from around the Load era, I mean, these guys are just bored as hell. I mean, they had just gotten off, they made the Black album. So like they had the whole traumatic incident with Cliff, and then, like adapting to a new bass player, putting out Injustice for All, and then touring for that record, and then getting their first like dose of like real heavy duty fame, and all that, I think, was tumultuous for them and like really shook them up to the point where when they're doing the Black album, they had more cooks in the kitchen than they needed. Mm-hmm. And the goal became, let's make Metallica as big as possible, and they accomplished that. And they were, they toured for so long for that record. And by the time they finished that tour, I think they were just completely overwhelmed. And if they were going to come back to the table, they wanted to do something that was like brand spanking new for them, but still big, and so they go into this kind of Load thing. We're going to reinvent everything. And they generate, a record that's something totally, it's just something that doesn't even belong. You couldn't recognize. It bears zero resemblance to anything they wrote in the 80s. So I'm more sympathetic to the fan who fell in love with these incredibly innovative, metal songs and records in the 80s, and now has to sort of like make peace with these Nickelback sounding
Yeah.
records. So I don't feel guilty at all for not picking anything off of those records. And, it's fine. It's just, I look at Metallica more like a band like Kiss. I mean, they're not quite that far on. They're not bigger than that whatever shallow, commercially oriented as Kiss, but not necessarily interested in living up to a certain sound. They're much more interested in like, let's just see what kind of new shit we can make. And okay, that's fine, but like, I don't like it. Not good. Like you said about your friend, like, sure, like there's a certain sense in which you can be like, okay, that's a way to look at it, but I actually agree with the other thing you said, which is that that's just kind of like, sadly, that's just a false opinion. That's not a good record. There's nothing good on it. It's the result of a broken process, and they should be embarrassed by it.
I award you points, and may God have mercy on your soul. Well,
may God have mercy on their soul.
Well, I think this also touches on a bit of a larger music conversation, and this goes back to Nickelback for a second, which Nickelback, I don't know if it's so much the thing today, but for a long period of time, like they were everyone's least favorite band. Like, what band sucks? Nickelback. Like, what's terrible? Nickelback. And on one hand, yeah, I can see where people are coming from. On the other hand, though, like Nickelback, they're selling out arenas and they're selling millions of records. So they're clearly doing something right. Even if you hate their music, like they're clearly writing songs that people love and will pay lots of money to see performed live.
Are you familiar with the artist Thomas Kincaid?
The name is familiar, but I couldn't tell you anything about it.
Google a Thomas Kincaid painting. And what we're talking about is the musical version of Thomas Kincaid.
Yeah.
Of course, this is popular. And it's crafted very keenly so that it will be popular. But that doesn't mean it's art. It's not art. It's something different.
Okay, I'm looking at some Thomas Kincaid. They look like advent calendars.
Right.
Well, yeah, I don't know. This is probably a subject for another conversation or podcast. But I see the art distinction that you're making there. It does seem like if people are able to, like, I guess what I'm saying is I appreciate people that are able to find a formula that millions of people enjoy. So however they do that, however they're able to hack into it. Like, I think the craft of finding that formula, which I do agree is separate from art, because it's kind of more like playing a game. It's like, you imagine like Frito-Lay or whatever company that is, and they're trying to come up with the right powder which will make chips taste a certain way, which is a bit more calculated. But I think there's something to it. So I think just to sum up my opinion on it for post, for late era Metallica, that I don't like the songs, I don't seek out the songs, and I don't think the songs are worth your time. But I respect that they were able to pivot into a different sound and still not only maintain their popularity, but even grow it. So I respect their I guess their musical savvy, maybe not so much craftsmanship, but their musical savvy to be able to do that. Even if I don't like it, and I would be just as well if they just decided to call it quits after the Black Album.
Right. Well, I mean, like, there's an important distinction between like the Black Album, Load, and even Reload, and then like these last three, whatever they've been doing in the 2000s, like that's garbage. Yeah. I'm not saying the Black Album is garbage. I'm not saying that at all. I think that there's good art in there. It's just different. It's just a different band. It's just it's a hard rock band. the other, to the other point, we're going to go too deep down this winding trail. It's like, I see what you're saying. There's there's a degree of regard you could have for people who are able to come up with a formula, but that doesn't mean it's good. You know what I mean? Like, just because there's a formula and a lot of people like it doesn't mean they haven't all been duped.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the Beatles distinction. So the Beatles wrote music that the majority of people like. They also took a lot of risks artistically, but they never fed you bullshit. Like, they never put something out just because they knew lots of people would like it. And that's what Nickelback is, right? Nickelback is just designed to appeal to people who don't know any better, period. And I think Metallica is they are trying to be the Beatles. They have that level of grandiosity about them, and they're not the Beatles. They're not those guys. They're, incredibly talented, or were, but anyway.
Yeah, well, I guess we have our final selection here to make.
Yes.
And
everyone's tired of me talking.
Yeah, everyone's tired. If there was anybody still listening of our two listeners of this.
Last picks, ladies and gentlemen. This is the big moment. What is Mike gonna pick?
Well, I'm in between two tracks, and I can guarantee that neither of these tracks are going to be in your top 100, Evan.
Okay, good. I think I know what you're gonna pick.
What do you say?
I think I know what you're gonna pick.
Well, geez. I'm like, this is change.
True to your heart, dude.
True to my heart?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna be true to my heart, and this is actually a contradiction to this kind of runs contrary to the conversation that we were having. There is a track off of Death Magnetic which I genuinely like and will genuinely seek out, and I think and that's my final selection, and that is The Day That Never Comes.
Okay.
That is my final. I think that is I think it's a perfectly good track, and I think the last 4 minutes or so, you kind of have some class. I think that's like the last out of the last 25, 30 years. Out of the last 30 years, I think it's the last time that Kirk has really sounded great and innovative on the guitar. So that's it's a song. I like the song. I couldn't name another track off of that album. Couldn't name nothing off of Saint Anger, but The Day That Never Comes. Are those question marks? Are those are you probably disagreeing with me? I don't even.
No, I'm not doing anything.
Heard that song?
I probably have. I recognize the track name. I have nothing to say about it. I don't know what. I can't conjure a sound. I can't pick. Can't hear it.
Yeah, it's whatever. There's that Toby Keith track. I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. And I think that this is a rare throwback that somehow somehow got in there. I could see it being like maybe not like I could see this being like a beta version of some song off of And Justice for All.
Huh.
So listen to the track. It's fine. What did you think that I was going to select?
I thought you were going to pick Whiskey in the Jar or something like that.
No, I was in between that and Stone Cold Crazy. I will say though, a track that was not selected was the cover of the Anti-Nowhere League, So What? And the first time I heard that song, I was a sophomore in high school. And the first 4 or 5 times I listened to that track, I was laughing hysterically because they were saying some very vulgar things.
The Day That Never Comes sounds like the title of a poem I would have written in the 6th grade. And to be perfectly fair, their lyrics on the first few albums aren't all that sophisticated, but I will listen to it just because I'm interested that you picked it. And yeah, it's definitely a deviation. So good on you for that. Are you ready for my final pick?
I was born ready.
Okay. So I'm gonna break the trend and like you go off the first four. I'm only gonna go one up to the Black Album, and this is my favorite. Like I said, I love the Black Album. Well, it's a really catchy, awesome record. Um, it's the kind of record that like you want to listen to on like as good a stereo as possible with a big subwoofer and like just get the full giant sound, like Sad But True on like, giant JBL speakers or on a really good pair of headphones. It's like it'll get you levitating. When I was young and first getting into Metallica, and I've said that as a preface to almost like all of these, there was a track on the Black Album that I loved more than any other. And it was what made me fall in love with Kirk Hammett as a guitar player, and that is Wherever I May Roam. And I, at the time, was convinced that this is as good as it gets. This is the best guitar playing in the world. This solo, it's incredible. The use of the wah pedal and all of these legato, hammer-ons and pull-offs and so many notes, and it goes so well with the song. In my 11-year-old brain, I thought this is like the kingdom. And I had probably listened to this song 1,000 times. It's also a really fun live song. And, it is part of their sort of transition into a more radio sounding band. But this is just a good song. And it's that guitar solo of Kirk Hammett. It sort of captures like Kirk's, if I could say one thing about him that makes him distinctive as a player, he's got like this is going to sound really pretentious, but he almost has like a feline sound to his guitar playing, this kind of whiny cat-like sound that he gets with the wah pedal. That's like in full force on this guitar solo. And yeah, I was very much in love with that and I was obsessed with Kirk Hammett. And then it's weird, you stay on this guitar thing and become like a guitar nerd. And, you and I have talked about this, but we start discovering these other guitar players who are metal guys and shredders. And you get into the Yngwie Malmsteen and the Steve Vais and the Paul Gilberts, and you're like, Kirk Hammett sucks. Which compared to those guys, he really does. But he wrote some really good guitar solos. Like he actually had a knack for composing good Metallica music, and he wrote a lot of cool like riffs and interludes for a lot of the early songs too. So I think he deserves his place in the pantheon. As we've discussed many times offline, it's very easy to be disappointed in his playing nowadays. You can definitely tell when he's like not been practicing, and it's kind of sad. So, I'm glad that this day that never comes thing you picked has some good Kirk Hammett work, because this is what really turned me on to his playing. And I misspelled it. So we have to redo the entire 3-stage podcast.
Yeah. Wow.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, well, that's it. We
yeah. Cue SNL outro music.
Yeah, no, I think this is pretty good. I think we still need to get our Aussie draft. We get those printed in vinyl. We still need to get these ones printed in vinyl and sent out. I'll be interested because I believe nobody has heard these tracks yet. I'll be interested to hear what our listeners have to say about this. Right. I'm gonna, before we wrap up, hang up and call it a day, is the next draft that we will be doing is for Eric Johnson.
Right. Which
we will be doing an Eric Johnson draft, which is going to be.
It's like, we thought of when we first envisioned this whole concept of doing a song draft like this, very creative idea that we came up with all by ourselves. And we thought, who are the big bands? Who do we really want to do? Well, so we got to do Ozzy, Metallica, and then Eric Johnson. I mean, that's the three, right? You don't need to do anybody else. So yeah, I think
well, Eric Johnson, that's gonna get that's gonna set the world by storm. That's gonna be our tickets to superstardom. We're gonna dethrone Joe Rogan as a top podcaster on the strength of our Eric Johnson brand.
Well, you got to start small. You start with the VH2 song podcasts, and then before you know it, we're going to be interviewing, David Cho and whoever.
Yeah.
Maybe even Donald Trump.
That's how it goes. But yeah, if you have any bands that you want us to do a draft of, there are I think there are probably like 2 more that we're capable of doing.
No, right. Exactly. We don't have enough knowledge to do this. We could probably do, stay tuned. There's been some talk of maybe a Van Halen, maybe a little AC/DC, maybe throw in a little Aerosmith. Here's a suggestion. How would you do this for a band like Guns N' Roses? How the hell are Guns N' Roses so huge and important? And honestly, name you probably could because you got into Guns N' Roses, but I don't know if I could even name 10 Guns N' Roses songs.
Well, no, so I definitely got more into Guns N' Roses than you did, but that was, I mean, that was Appetite for Destruction, and then Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. And
yeah. What else? There's nothing.
Well, I think they have an album. I think Lies is an album. I think they also have, which again, one obscure, very specific memory that's etched into my brain forever, is how the Racine Best Buy, their CD bin, they had, I think for years, they had $5.99, the Spaghetti Incident.
And you bought it.
Just there that nobody bought. That was, of course, their cover album. No, I mean, I think Appetite for Destruction, I think is rightly recognized as a great, 80s metal album, as it should be. Use Your Illusions, I would say collectively, there are, I would say 5 undisputably good songs off of both of those.
But you couldn't do a draft for.
No.
You just can't do it.
No, I think you could do 10 songs. You could do a 10-song draft for them.
Yeah, maybe.
But even then, it's like Welcome to the Jungle. I don't need to hear Welcome to the Jungle or Sweet Child of Mine. Sweet Child of Mine's good. I'd like to hear that one. But Welcome to the Jungle, definitely not. November Rain is still a cool song.
Yeah, well, the November Rain is that. More importantly, the music video. That's why I played guitar. That's why I decided to play guitar.
Yeah, but You Could Be Mine, of course, T2 track there, so that's an important one.
Yeah, they might have 10. I mean, they had to have set lists playing live. I mean, they have songs. It's just they didn't have a whole lot of.
Yeah.
I don't really know my Guns N' Roses. I don't much care either. But yeah, Eric Johnson coming up.
Yeah.
Check him out if you don't know.
And it'll be a good podcast, especially for when you're feeling lonely in the night. All right.
Explore that on the podcast.
All right.
Goodbye.